us live on KTAR's YouTube channel. You can listen, you can watch. Let's get into it. We've got a ton of stuff to get to. Of course, it's Bruce and Gaydos. Let's see who's on the panel today. We've got Arizona State Senator John Kavanagh's back with us. Great to see you, Senator.
Thank you,
Always
sir.
great to be here.
All right, KTAR legal analyst Barry Markson weaseled his way back onto the war room.
Weaseled my way.
Great
My
to see
goodness.
you, Barry. I tease.
Thank
I
you.
tease.
You need an
Thank
appearance fee now for that assault.
You should have
man.
heard the begging. The begging they made.
Begging.
It's okay.
Off-air begging.
We got the president and CEO of HighGround, Chuck Coughlin. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to be here with you, gentlemen.
Let's start with Iran. Let's start with the U.S. Let's start with Israel. The question, were the strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities a success or a failure? Who would like to take it first?
Ooh.
I'll jump.
Chuck.
I'll jump.
Short-term, long-term?
I was not thrilled. I was not thrilled when he joined this fight. I'm one of these people who feels that these are Middle East issues, and when we make ourselves the issues in the Middle East, I always find that to be a negative for us. We work well through surrogates there. We've worked well with. I get.
Well, Israel's our surrogate there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm totally supportive of not ever allowing Iran to have a nuclear weapon, since they would use it. I mean, I think that's clear. But
Then
I just.
how are you against it?
Well, the crew that's in charge right now, Larry, I just don't have the greatest sense of confidence in our Secretary of Defense, our national security advisor. The team that's there does not instill me with great confidence.
Interesting. Barry.
Yeah, it's look, when it happened, I was a supporter of it. And the way I look at it is there's a couple things, but the biggest one is we had an opportunity before North Korea got a nuclear weapon to stop that, and we didn't do it. And here it is, and Iran's worse than North Korea. I mean, they're right in the middle of everything. They're a terrorist nation. They support terrorists all across the world. They create chaos, and they're constantly doing stuff to hurt the United States. So if we have a chance to take out a nuclear weapon before it happens, I think that's a good thing.
All right.
I share Chuck's concern, though, and you're kind of seeing it now. Trump came out that night and said we obliterated it. It was a, what do you say, complete obliteration. And now I'm not sure I hope that's the case, but that doesn't seem to be what's
Delayed
coming.
it maybe 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna need to find out, but I don't think it was a complete obliteration. And now Trump is just taking his victory lap. So everything now it's a win. Anybody who criticizes it is bad.
Right.
And he's not going to the follow-up steps that need to be done now. Right. Are they going to be done, or is he going to say, I won, let's walk away?
So let's go to Arizona State Senator John Kavanagh.
Sure.
Success with the bombing or a failure? Where are you?
Well, we got that setback of only 3 to 4 months from CNN, so we know that's baloney.
Okay.
They're not exactly
We got
known
that
for-
from a
It's
Pentagon
actually
leak.
the
We got it from a
Pentagon.
Pentagon.
The Pentagon's got it. now.
And the Pentagon spoke. The leakers at the Pentagon gave that information about 10 different media organizations and gave it to Congress. They gave it to the leadership in Congress.
I see your Pentagon leak, and I raise you one UN party that said there's radiation leaking. And since I don't think they had a little thermos of plutonium by the surface, I think those bunker busters did the
Thermos
job.
plutonium.
And that, by the way, is the reason why Trump could not allow Israel to continue to be our surrogate. They didn't have bunker busters.
Right.
And there's only 2 ways you take out that deep facility. You either let Israel bring in ground troops, which would create a real major disaster of war in the Middle East, or the U.S. moseys on over, right, was a 37-hour,
Round-trip
Incredible.
flights,
a little bit
B-2
longer
bombers.
than the Gilligan's Island
The only country in
tour.
the world that could have done it.
Yeah.
Right.
And 7 bunker busters, and it was great. And I'll tell you one thing. Barack Obama got a Nobel Peace Prize before when he first got elected, right? Because of what they said he might do or will do. You had Trump with the Abraham Accords. You got Trump and Netanyahu neutering the Houthis, taking out Hamas, removing Hezbollah, and now getting rid of the Iranian nuclear threat with its ballistic missiles. And I'll bet you those feckless fools will still not give Trump a Nobel Peace Prize.
Are you saying you can't bomb your way into a Nobel Peace Prize? Is that what you're saying? That's an outrage.
I'm going to go.
Mahatma Gandhi got it all wrong.
Chuck?
I all due respect to my senior colleague and deeply respected state senator here, what he just said was all not proven yet.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some kind of dialogue with them it's going to have
With
to happen.
with Iran, you mean?
Yeah, it's going to have to happen as a result, whether it's 3 months or a year. I mean, we got to figure out a way to get, as Barry was saying, to get across the table from these knuckleheads.
Well, so here's the question. Will we ever know how successful they were, or over what period of time?
We will if Iran really wants to come to the table now. If Iran wants to say, "Hey, we're gonna set this aside. We're gonna stop being a terrorist nation. We want to open up the economy. We want to make life better for our people."
You don't think they're going to do that?
No, they've never done that.
Right.
The only way you get that is if you have some sort of a regime change. And I'm not saying the U.S. should go in there and create regime change. The Iranians have to do that themselves. But no, they came. Their whole dedicated life as a country is to literally destroy Israel, and that the United States is the great Satan. I mean, that's the whole focus of their world.
We will know whether or not it was totally taken out or 90% or whatever, because Israel has so many Mossad agents
There's
in
a
that
solid
country.
argument behind that.
There is wisdom
they
in
know
that.
everything that's going on.
There is wisdom in that.
Israeli agents had lunch down there the other day. They already know what's going on.
Got it.
And there's always the beepers.
Well, I was quoting, and I looked at, there was the Times of Israel, and they said Israeli officials are questioning how effective the strikes were, that they don't have, at least according to this reporting, that they aren't sure.
But then Trump and his people started showing something from Israel. They're saying Israeli intelligence saying it did knock the whole thing out. And so I don't know what's true. I don't think anybody really knows what's true yet.
Well, we've never used these things before,
No,
right?
We used them in Tora Bora.
Yeah, thanks.
Against
That
Osama
worked.
bin Laden.
That worked.
But you're going to have eyes on it. They're going to have to let nuclear inspectors in there, or somebody's going to have to go in there and look
Gonna
at it.
have to get there.
Because we don't know. We've never used it in combat before. Exactly.
Right.
So we're inside the war room. We've got Arizona State Senator John Kavanagh. We've got KTAR legal analyst Barry Markson, President and CEO of HighGround Chuck Coughlin. We are talking about the bombing of Iran and the nuclear facilities. Is part of the issue how Trump came out in front of America on Saturday with the tough talk and
The victory lap.
We obliterated it. Did he misrepresent the bombing of the facilities? Because I'm with you guys. I don't know if they're destroyed. I have no idea. CNN says one thing, the UN says another, Trump saying something, Israel saying. I think if you're the president and you don't know 100% that they're destroyed, why do you come out and
It's
and-
Trump.
I understand that. This is huge, though. You can't blow this.
This is
the
the
leopard
MO.
doesn't change his spots.
This is the MO, right? Okay, we bombed them. We're putting that behind us. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to pick another fight over there, and we're going to pay attention to that now.
But it's everything. He creates his own facts, Gaydos, and that's been the problem the whole time. We can agree about policy and stuff, but he creates his own facts. His facts are it obliterated the whole thing. And part of me said, well, did somebody in the military tell him it obliterated it? But the answer to that is no, because the next day Marco Rubio didn't say they walked it back. The Joint Chiefs Staff Chairman
They said,
walked it back.
we degraded it. They used other terms.
What do you think, Senator
did-
Well, it's
Kavanaugh?
one thing to lie about the size of your inauguration crowd. It's another thing to lie about potentially getting us into war.
Is that
What do you think,
what they call it now, an inauguration crowd?
Yeah.
Look, Trump has been working with Israel for weeks. Israel took out their defensive radar, giving them total control of the skies. Israel then went around knocking out their ballistic missile sites and other military sites. And then we came in for the final cherry on the cake, right? The bunker busters. So Iran is militarily decimated.
Neutered.
Well, good
Yeah.
word.
No,
I agree with that.
So it's a victory, and I'm not taking anything away from Trump. He was magnificent. Netanyahu was magnificent. They both should get Nobel Peace Prizes.
I know that it may not have worked out perfectly. I don't know if we took everything out, but wasn't this a good week for Donald Trump? I mean, the actual military operation was amazing. How
military
incredible.
did great.
There's a ceasefire. No one's killing each other right now. So doesn't the president deserve some?
Yes, it was a great couple of weeks for Israel. It was a good week for Trump.
Was it the best week of Trump's presidency?
This one
I think so.
so
You
far?
think-
I got to think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus you also had the immigration ruling, if I can give you a segue into the next section.
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
Somebody's trying to get his own show.
I think it was a good week for him.
Yeah.
What I'm consistently concerned with is this narrative of not being truthful. And I just read something before I came over here about all of the false narratives in the Iranian government, and what that did to them over time is it made them weak. Made them weak as to the point that John just made, that Israelis took them out.
Yeah,
there was
in
nothing going
hours.
on. In
Yeah.
hours.
In
It's-
hours.
You know, that's
Trump got a win in the Supreme Court when it comes to deporting immigrants to third countries, not the country they are from. Instead of returning them to a home country, turning them to a third country. Are we deporting the right people if ICE's own numbers say only less than 50% have any criminal records?
Let me first say that I'm a little uncomfortable with the word transitioning. So
Okay, fair enough.
John, I was going to make that joke about you, but I decided not to do it. But thank you for taking it. That was great.
I guess I've been in the House and the Senate for the last 19 years, so I'm trans-chambered.
Trans-chambered.
I'll admit to that.
That's great.
no, we're not. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing people are upset about right now. But Trump doesn't care because it's just like gaslighting everybody. You know, he's got ICE doing this rather than looking at Iranian threats to our security. We're throwing people out of
Gardeners
the country.
and dishwashers?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a guy yesterday in L.A. who's the father of 2 Marines.
Three
Marines, yeah.
got arrested and tackled.
Yeah.
You know, by ICE agents.
While he was cutting the grass at the
Yeah,
IHOP.
Been here for
and his
decades.
first call out of jail was, "Hey, could you go get my truck? I don't want to lose my truck."
So,
I mean, it's
Senator
just
Kavanagh,
unbelievable.
Senator Kavanagh, what are we doing? What are we doing picking up? There was a mom that was breastfeeding. They took her out of the country. I mean, we're taking the wrong people out, are we not?
Well, 45 to 55% of the illegal immigrants in this country did not sneak over the border escaping persecution.
Okay.
In fact, most of the border crosses are not those kinds of
Asylum seekers.
They're
actually
economic.
which is not grounds for asylum. But let's forget about that. Roughly half of the people here illegally overstayed visas. They had a tourist visa,
Right.
they didn't go back. They had a work visa, they didn't go back. They had a student visa, they didn't go back.
Correct, yeah.
They all should be deported. Why would you let somebody who overstays a visa, who's not claiming they're being persecuted, kick their butts out? So right off the bat, I got no problem half of them going all together. Now, I talked to my colleagues who talk about illegal border cross. So who would you remove? I said, would you remove somebody who just crossed the border a year ago? You know what I hear? Crickets. They don't want anybody removed. They don't want a border. They don't want immigration laws. You know who I want here in the place of those people? I want the people in the countries they came from who put their name on the list and are patiently waiting to be brought here legally. I want those people here, not the people who overstayed visas or jumped the border.
There's certainly something to be said. What John's saying is the people who overstay their visa, they're not here legally, and they can be deported. There's a lot of questions, though. There's a Republican congressman out of Florida, congresswoman, who's now saying you're pulling so many people out of these industries that we're going to start to see a major hit to the economy because hotels and agriculture and other things, construction, they're losing the ability to do their jobs. You have Republican small business owners and farmers who are declaring bankruptcy because they're losing the ability to do the work. There's a smarter way to do it. But I think what they're saying, Senator, is that you have Trump. The Trump administration came in and said, we're going to find the murderers and the serious criminals, and that's who we're going after first. And the fact is they're not. The latest reporting today is that of the people we know who are here illegally and have a conviction of murder in their own country, 6% of them have been deported,
yeah.
and yet they're pulling the gardener out who's been here for 25
Only
years.
700 out of 13,000 or something.
Let's take these guys who
Convicted
are
murderers.
running around masked and pulling people off the street and say, let's focus on crimes. Let's find these criminals first and then do this. But instead, you have Stephen Miller, who's literally going to meetings at the Department of Homeland Security and screaming at people, saying, "I want 3,000 a day.
I call him bald Goebbels.
Doesn't matter what the procedure is or the policy. I want 3,000 a day, or heads will roll."
Well,
and that's what we're looking at
Can we
right
take
now.
the 50% who overstayed their visas, no matter where they are, how long they've been here? Because they have no right to be here.
But the point-
and talk about killing the hotels real quick. Right? Hotels are going to be closing in California and New York because they have $30 an hour minimum wages. That's what's going to collapse the hotels.
Okay, but what we need, get back to all this, is a law. I mean, we're back to where we
only
were again.
there
And I
was
texted
legislation.
our state's junior senator about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said, hey, could we get an immigration bill in exchange for something on this reconciliation? He goes, nope, they're not. The market's not open. I said, but we need to have an immigration bill because we need to have laws that govern this. But both sides, both political parties,
Too much in it to fight over it than to ever solve it.
It's like
I don't trust
perpetual
one of them
war.
to solve it.
Right.
Well, they want an immigration bill, right? So what do they say? Let's secure the border. They want to secure the border now because nobody's crossing it because Trump looked at the border with a dirty eye and they all ran back to their home countries. So now they want to do border
It started
enforcement.
under Biden.
And they
to be
don't
clear.
want the internal enforcement.
Yeah.
They want everybody at the border because nobody's there.
Last word, Barry.
I would just say just about the court case you brought up at the beginning, Gaydos, that Supreme Court decision. It's not a decision. It's a shadow docket thing, and they didn't even say why they found this. But what it allows is for the U.S. to send illegal immigrants who are going to be deported to one of their countries, and we can't get them into that country because we don't have an agreement with them.
Like Venezuela?
China?
Cuba. They can send them to somewhere else until they can get moved. It can be some dangerous, but for what I've read, these are all people with actual criminal records. But who knows if that's really
So
true?
we can take care of the hotel worker shortage in Uganda.
There you go.
Let's talk Iran once again. But first, of course, we have to play what Trump said yesterday, which, in my
yes.
opinion,
All right.
may be the greatest clip from a president in my lifetime.
Here we go.
You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
And doesn't that just wrap up the entire Middle East over the last 1,200 years?
Well, some people would argue that it wraps up the last about 100 days pretty well.
You know what
right?
amazed me about that more than anything, and I've been on the radio a long time, but back when Obama was president, and I was on the radio with people who were offended that he stepped off of Air Force One without a tie on.
The outrage.
One time he appeared in front of the media in a beige suit, and they were freaking out about
Impeach him!
the disrespect to the office. And now this is okay.
All right, let's get to the question about what's happening in the Middle East. There is a ceasefire. We've got
It's
both
holding.
sides not shooting at each other. I said this yesterday. I think Trump needs to get rid of the ceasefire. Listen, if we did not get everything in the nuclear sites, we got to go back and finish the job.
Yeah.
We got to go and do it
So
again.
you want to lift the ceasefire
Yeah.
to go back?
Nah, it's always going to be done over the table. We're never going to know. And I mean, John said earlier we'll be able to get Mossad or somebody in there
I can't
to put
believe-
some eyes on it. But
I can't believe you're out warmongering me.
I know, usually don't do that.
Larry's going to run
Channeling
for
his
your
inner
job.
McCain, you know? Yeah.
Larry's running, and
Well, it was so easy the first time, and if we didn't get it 100%, we need to go back and get it 100%, because as everybody has said,
But I don't know if there's
they
a
can't have
100%
a
guarantee.
nuke.
I
Yeah.
think the problem is there is no such thing as a 100% guarantee.
They have nuclear material.
Yeah,
we don't know where that
they,
is.
They probably moved that off there before we
Yeah.
blew it up. And the killer for me here is there really a ceasefire? There's nothing signed by anybody. It's literally just Trump saying there's a ceasefire.
Tweeting.
Yeah, tweeting it.
But they aren't firing missiles, I don't believe.
And the parties are afraid.
They have none left.
Trump called when Trump dropped that F-bomb that you just played. I would never have played that on the air, by the way. No, I'm kidding. But it was he said you could tell he was mad at Netanyahu. He was mad because Israel went back in after Iran shot off a couple of extra rockets, and Israel went back in and did some major bombing, and Trump was mad at Netanyahu. That's what that was.
Oh.
And that got Israel to say, okay, and they stopped.
Let's play that clip here.
Now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either.
Now, he's not happy with Netanyahu either.
Because he wants to be the peace guy now. So this is now Trump's game. He did it, and he wants Netanyahu's got to play along. And look, Israel got most of what it wanted. We'll see what this nuclear stuff did.
Isn't this all an argument that diplomacy is going to be the only solution? That
At the
is
end
there
of the day,
a
yeah.
military solution?
No,
I don't know how you bomb the ideology out of them. By the way, it hasn't
military-
worked anywhere else.
Dick Nixon used to say, you shape the bargaining table on the battlefield, and
Okay.
then you close the deal.
There is no diplomacy without a military backup, and that's
Yeah.
the bottom line. So, I mean, President Bush and Clinton and Obama and Biden, they all said, no way will Iran have a nuclear weapon. And they all sat back while it happened. In fact, Obama released $1 billion to Iran, which they used to fund their program and their missiles, not to mention the Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis.
That's
So-
disputed, but yeah.
Well, they did release the money.
Well,
That
He's right
part's
about
not
that.
disputed.
No.
I don't think Hezbollah is going to dispute
And
that
he's
Trump
the only
beat their ass.
president. He's the only
I don't
president.
think Trump
with-
did. I think Israel
Trump
did.
didn't
but
do it.
Yeah,
Israel did.
He's
Yeah.
the only
Okay.
president with the balls to bomb Iran. I mean,
Well,
I'll give him that.
And I think it was made possible by the defeat of Iran's proxies, because that was always the
doubt.
concern. You couldn't fight a
Right.
4-front, 5-front war at the same time.
Trump wasn't going to do this until Israel killed all the proxies down, but also Israel eliminated their defenses in Iran. Israel had so much success.
They laid the groundwork.
Trump wanted to be part of it, and that's when he got in. This wasn't the plan from the beginning.
And there's an argument there to be made. That's the way U.S. military ought to be used. It ought to be used as an adjunct to local authority. But he's been making that same argument in Ukraine with all the Europeans. You go do this, and we'll close the deal.
An important point. Trump didn't hold back Netanyahu like Biden did. That's why this happened. If Trump wasn't president, you would not have this.
I think that's fair. Yeah. The one thing that scares one of the things that scares me about Trump is it's just him. He thinks he's running the whole government like it's Trump. The Trump organization.
What a shocker.
He doesn't, you think about it. Why does he have people who are just completely unqualified in these positions? Because he doesn't care. He doesn't care what Tulsi Gabbard says. He's just going to ignore it anyway.
He just wants...
He needs to appoint somebody to the job, but they're not going to do the job.
But he says something, and then he expects everybody to jump up and do it. And it scares me because there's no analysis. There's no thought about the future.
He signs the tweets. What is it, how he signs the tweets?
I just made a mistake, and I blame Biden for holding back Netanyahu. I shouldn't do that. Whoever was running the country when Biden.
Oh, there it is.
That's true.
There it is.
But
that's the part that should be scaring all of us. That he's not talking to diplomats. He's not talking to the State Department. He's not even talking to the people in his inner circle. Maybe a little bit, but he's just making a decision without that kind of forethought and analysis. And what happens next? What's the next the next chess move, or the next 10 chess moves?
Well, what is the next move? Is it because from what I'm seeing, the U.S. will meet with Iran next week.
That's what we're saying. Yeah.
Again, the United States does not talk to Iran. They don't talk to each other. They talk through other people.
We were having the meetings in Doha, right?
Yeah.
Steve Witkoff was down there allegedly negotiating something.
Yep, he was there. He was talking, so there was direct communication going on. But the other thing that's off the table here is what's still going on in Gaza. I mean, you have this massive humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Nobody cares about it anymore.
Nobody cares about that anymore.
They've moved on.
But it's the longer-lasting military. So can you bomb your way to success? No, because you figure out at the end of the day, you got to do something. And so hopefully this new point in time will bring about some Arab-Israeli process to provide some peace to that region.
Where is the Arab pressure and the world pressure on Hamas to say, bring this to a close, give up, put down your arms, and it ends. It ends that day when they do that. If everybody calls for that instead of Israel to stop, it's over. Why isn't anybody calling for the aggressor in that war to stop and end it?
All right,
no one calls for that.
That's the last word. All right, Barry, good job.
Senator Kavanagh.
The man.
We're going to start with you. We are at least getting closer to a potential government shutdown, the state of Arizona shutdown. Well, you're laughing, which is great. What do you put the percentage at?
Well, before I begin, let me first say, if you're one of those 1 in 4 seniors who have to go back to work, do not run for the state legislature because there's no money.
No money in it. Fair enough. I mean, are we going to get a deal done? Is there a chance that we have this brinksmanship?
Yeah. Right now, well, today, the House finally first read the Senate bills, which were negotiated with the governor and have bipartisan support. Yeah. So they first read it today. They will come back tomorrow, and they will second read it and go to the committee of the whole. They're bypassing the Appropriations Committee. And because the Constitution requires 3 readings on 3 days, at 1 minute after midnight, it'll be a new third day. They will pass it into law, probably with a few additions that will give them. And then the Senate will come back on Friday, and we will concur and pass it.
So why do we? It's just a game then. We're just playing a game at this point.
It's a game for a few people, but most people are doing their jobs.
Give me a name. Who's screwing up this deal?
I'll give you the name. You want to do it? You want to do it, Senator?
No, he's not going to do it.
He can't say it.
Round up the usual suspects.
It's Jay Kaufman, and I think we should talk about this. Jay Kaufman, who heads the Freedom Caucus in the Senate, which basically
a fake elector.
Yes, he's an indicted fake elector and a TPUSA guy, Turning Point USA, and he is down there doing stuff just to create chaos. He really has no effect on the legislature or what's happening down there other than to do this. And he controls enough people in the House that he can threaten the Speaker of the House, Steve Montenegro, with losing his position if he doesn't do what Jake wants. And he's pulling these strings. And from the beginning, this was never going to happen. They passed 2 budgets out of the House that the governor said she was going to veto. She did veto. It's wasting our time and wasting our money.
Montenegro was on with Mike Broomhead today. Let's take a listen. He's talking about are there conversations between the Senate and the House?
There are. there are conversations like
Is that true? There are conversations between the Senate and the House
in this?
I just want to know if he's lying right out of the gate.
How do you define conversation?
Ouch!
Let's listen.
Is.
There are conversations like the House. We want to make sure that we're not spending more than we can afford here in the state of Arizona. We want to make sure that we're passing a sound budget, and so that's where the conversations are. I believe that in those conversations we will be able to find something. But again, we have to stand up for the people of Arizona.
Okay, Senator, is he full of crap or does he have a point?
He's full of crap.
The root of this whole budget problem, right? First, it started with the governor, who didn't want to negotiate the budget until she had Proposition 123 referred to the ballot, which we were unable to get an agreement on with our base people and education people because we wanted ESA protections in there. And then just a couple of weeks ago, the governor said, all right, forget it, we'll do it next year. So we started the budget super late. For reasons unbeknownst to me, the House budget crew, it's a small group that negotiate, right, with input from our members, did not want to come to a legislative Republican agreement and then confront the governor. They didn't want to do this with us, so forcing us in the Senate to negotiate with the governor on our own. And that's where you had this big split. Then we had these divergent budgets.
Okay,
and
Chuck's
But
got
that's
Chuck,
two months without
So the
the House.
most remarkable thing that happened down there today, it was after the Senate passed all the House bills, sent them up to the governor, and she vetoed them promptly.
Right.
But right after they passed them, the Senate president, it was remarkable to me. We were sitting in our office going, did he just do that? Because he just lit up the Freedom Caucus.
Yeah, he took
From
on his
the
own
microphone
Republicans
today.
Wow. Yeah.
He just said, this is adults. This is childish. I mean, he went off. I texted him. I said, I'm glad to see there's an adult in the room.
Yeah.
He gave me
he
the
made
heart
the point
emoji
that
back.
we know that
But
they're
John's
not going
right.
to pass
Yeah.
a bill that doesn't have bipartisan
No.
support.
Who
So
did that?
why do you keep doing this?
He made that.
Who?
Warren.
Warren
Yeah,
Peterson did
Peterson
that.
Yeah,
did.
Warren
Wow.
lit them up.
Yeah.
And and he's a very,
He doesn't do
very deeply conservative guy from from the same area of the valley that Jake's
they're
from.
saying he passed an Obama-Biden. I mean, it's just the biggest joke in the world that Warren Peterson is suddenly like a Democrat
Oh, yeah,
now. I
yeah.
mean, it's just hilarious. And by the way,
Liberal!
Senator Kavanagh has the Appropriations Committee and wrote the budget, really.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for that.
Very
Brewer's a
conservative.
communist too.
yeah, my goodness.
what's kind of interesting is that the Senate will now vote out the budget that some of them claim was like a liberal budget. They're going to vote the same budget out after they add some more money to it.
Yeah.
What
the
a
House
surprise.
is going to add more spending
What a
to
surprise.
the budget the Senate did in order to pass it.
Politics as usual.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Lather, rinse, repeat. Guys, thank you so much for being inside the war room. Again, our esteemed guests, Chuck Coughlin, Barry Markson, and State Senator Kavanagh. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.